If it's okay, I'm not going to use this. Everybody can hear me fine, right? Awesome. The shoes were specific for mental health awareness. So those are my green that I brought in. And then, just a little background on myself. I do collect Jordans. So my background is just all my collection of Jordans. So I pick out which ones I want to wear. You mentioned my kids. So I deal with a lot of mental health things in the household when you have teenagers and young adults, all females, and I've helped them with a lot of the programs and things that you guys have said from EAP and stuff. So a big advocate for that. Happy SHRM Day. I don't know if you guys are aware, but I am a huge fan of SHRM. So thank you, Trisha, for everything you just shared. I was going to say, why am I up here speaking to HR professionals when I'm really just a sales guy? But overall, I'm a huge advocate of HR. I do follow SHRM. I follow Johnny Taylor. I love all the things that he talks about, especially when it comes to the workplace. Not too long ago, I was in a meeting, and this is at my prior company at Square and Afterpay. We were talking about what's your mission in the workplace, and we were doing a whole mission and vision exercise. And they had asked me, and these were all my teams and leaders bringing it up, and I was thinking about it, and I've always said, like, my mission is to create better workplaces. So even though I'm in the sales roles and I'll go through my career in a little bit, it's always been, how do you create the best workplaces through continuous improvement, like a Mamba mentality, like Kobe Bryant always talks about? How do you create a culture of want to versus have to? Having people that want to wake up and work there versus have to get up and work there. And then the third one is, how do you create go-giver mentality? Whether it's just providing best service, sharing knowledge, creating just forums where people can be go-givers. That's why I started Show Forward, which was really, can I take all my experiences and knowledge and share with others? I mean, Trisha just mentioned how I've impacted her, which fantastic. I'm glad that you're confident to be up here, but it's like, how can we keep doing that with more and more people across various organizations and various companies? So that's my mission when it comes to like why I wanted to speak to you all. And again, why I want to create better workplaces. Today, what I'll do is I'll go through a lot of like my experiences as it relates to HR and coaching. I think it's important you guys see again why I'm a huge fan of this world. And then I will share tactical things that you could actually take away. Some of you might already be doing these things. Some of them could be new, but the idea is, how do we actually improve coaching in the workplace? So that's what I'll do. They did tell me I had about an hour. Unlike Dr. Melissa, like, I love talking about myself, so I'm a sales guy. I'll be up here, but I probably won't take up the whole hour after I'm done. If there's Q&A, that's perfectly fine, but my goal is not to keep us in here as long as I can. So just a heads up. So what I'm gonna go through first is, again, my journey in my career. So again, talking about myself, sorry about that, but my first job was at the University of Phoenix in Houston, Texas. I'm originally from Houston, Texas. I started out of college at University of St. Thomas. I don't know if you were rooting for that because you know of it for real, but not most people know that college is a small liberal arts school in Houston compared to all the big schools in Texas. But I graduated there, started at the University of Phoenix because I was a fan of education. I was basically, as a rep, selling to individuals that needed to go back to school or took a break and never actually went to school because life happens. It was a great job. I did really well. But a year later, they moved me to Las Vegas, Nevada to oversee a team of enrollment advisors. They named that, but it's really salespeople. And when I went there as my first job, I did a couple things. Read the book, First Break All the Rules by Marcus Buckingham, to really understand people and how to manage well. So fantastic read, especially moving into leadership. I went to Zappos, the company that Amazon bought, and they had like these experiences where they take leaders and show them how they manage culture. I went through that and I saw how they treated their employees, and I loved it. Tony Hsieh has a book, Delivering Happiness. He passed away not too long ago, Vegas resident, but his book is fantastic, again, about you take care of your employees take care of your customers, similar to what Richard Branson says as well. So I was a huge fan of Zappos, and I basically created a team that I thought about, how can I make the best work environment where we work hard, we play hard, similar to what Zappos did. I also, because it was my first role, did a lot with hiring, had to build out new teams, hire new people. So I learned really quickly about behavioral-based interviewing. Again, probably terminology and things you all know about. And we rolled out Lominger competencies early in my career before other companies that were even talking about it. So I was excited to like learn that and see how to actually apply it. So University of Phoenix really taught me a lot as just a leader. I went from Las Vegas to Jersey City, New Jersey to oversee, I know it's like, why would you leave Vegas to go to Jersey City? But mainly it was for a role to oversee multiple teams now for the University of Phoenix. So they had a campus in Newport, New Jersey, Jersey City and Newport, right across from World Trade, next to the Pat Station. I don't think they're there anymore, but that's where I came here. And then at that time, taking over a team of 64 people and 6 managers, we had a reduction in force. So now I quickly had to learn how to deal with that. And then we went down to 25 employees and then restructured everything with comp bands, profiles, new hiring, and had to build it all up. So again, very much needed HR business partners right there by my side to help that process and get going. After the University of Phoenix, I went to Living Social. I actually took a step back from my leadership role and went back to an individual contributor in sales for Living Social. You guys remember Living Social? Still around, Groupon owns them now. I was basically a sales rep for less than 4 years, but in less than 4 years, I had more than 4 leaders that I reported to. So I learned quickly on what not to do as a leader. I also got a chance to go back and finish my master's. I actually completed a couple, so an MBA, but then I went back and did a master's in education focused on adult education and training because I actually enjoy that aspect of it and learned a lot. And then during that time, I also did a Six Sigma certification, just continuous education. So I took a step back. I just did my own thing. I had my daughter. I was autonomous, could work on my own time, but I continued working on developing myself to set myself up more for my future career. And then when I left Living Social, I joined Paychex. I was right here at Paychex, or where I was at the North Jersey office. I started as a 401k and FSA sales rep. So got a chance to, again, sell benefits as part of an HR package. And then went back to leadership again now that I was ready. My kids are a little bit older and I was ready to go back and commit myself to leadership. And then my team sold PEOs, HR services, and what we were doing was really selling outsourced HR generalists to small businesses because they can't afford sometimes an HR department. So again, very involved. So when you're selling a service like that, you have to understand your product and understand the HR world. So I got a chance to work with HRGs, Joanne Farina, everybody's, what is it? Everything's better with an HRG. Remember that tagline we created when we worked there together? But it was like great to learn, like you mentioned, Ashley, about the job postings, or not posting, but like in the break room, what's the poster look like? We had to make sure people understand job postings. We had to understand how an employee handbook is. What can you do for, terminations? How do you get people to join your company based on the benefits you provide? It was really focused on just, again, full outsourced HR for small businesses. So really got a chance to learn a lot about HR selling it. Then I left Paychex and joined Daily Pay as the first sales leader there. So at Daily Pay, very similar to what I do now, we basically allowed employees to access their pay before payday, selling to HR professionals. I know a couple of Daily Pay people here, so I hope I gave that pitch right. But basically, coming into that world, speaking to CHROs, SVP of HRs, Director of HRs, even total rewards and payroll folks, but just you're talking in that HR world, you have to be very well versed, and we're selling a benefit that helps employees with their financial well-being and helps employers recruit, retain, and engage their employees. So a lot of work there. We had to grow our team, so it was a startup. So I went from 16,000 employee company to employee 153, and now we're growing that from 8 reps to 60 plus reps with a lot of new leaders and teams. So I got a chance to be a part of that startup, worked very closely with my HR leaders in order to grow it correctly. Who we're hiring, what are the actual comp bands we're looking at, all this different stuff, working with my HRBP. I then went to Square and I did a couple things at Square. I oversaw the Afterpay SMB team, Afterpay. You guys have heard that? So Square bought Afterpay as an acquisition. So now I'm involved in an acquisition aspect, and then it's a global team. So now I worked with my HR teams across the globe, in Australia, in UK, in Europe, specifically Ireland and Spain, and then in Canada. Guess what? HR rules are completely different in all other countries, and I had to learn that quickly when overseeing a bunch of people and how we manage team, how we manage the reps, the leaders, etc. So I did that. Then I switched over from Afterpay to some new programs at Square, which were like our new initiatives. And while doing that, I had to work directly again with HR VPs as a strategic business partner to build out new roles, new job descriptions, new teams, new comp plans, all of those things. So did that, just recently went back to the financial wellness industry in our earned wage access and joined Rain. And now I moved from on the sales side to more on the partnerships and channel sales side, still sales, but working directly with partners to really help Rain become the partner of choice. And again, I'm sharing all this so you see how I'm related to a lot of the HR world. So hopefully you guys see that you got a sales guy talking about stuff that you deal with every day. And I kind of deal with this not only with the companies, but with my teams and employees that I work with. So I also read a lot of books. I name dropped a couple already. My Pay It Forward newsletter really focuses on sharing and giving back several, like basically every 2 weeks, I'm doing a newsletter about whichever book that I'm most recently reading. I read 2 books a month is my goal. I always put that as my New Year's resolution and try to hold myself accountable. And I'm typically on track. Currently reading a book called Outlive, which is really focused on the longevity of people. My current CEO actually recommended it, so I'm reading that right now. Interesting because it's actually not so related to like my work world, but important to me for my personal growth and health. But I'm gonna share a couple of books with you guys so you guys can again see why coaching is so important. Daniel Pink wrote a book called Drive. Anybody read this book before? Joanne, nice. Drive, I think I might have recommended it a long time ago, right? Drive is one of my favorite books. He basically says people are not motivated by money. People are motivated by mastery, autonomy, and purpose. And the reason I bring this up is people crave mastery. That's coaching. People want to like learn and get better in their roles. If you kind of take money out of the picture and people are in a job that they enjoy and they're not too worried about finances, guess what? The reasons they work there is what you're doing to develop them, what you're doing to allow them to strive in their role with autonomy, and then what's the actual purpose that you're giving them for the long run. So I'm a huge fan of this because he really focuses on taking care of people's development and creating masters of their role is how organizations strive, how people strive. Legacy by James Kerr. Anybody read this? It's a book about the Australian or New Zealand rugby team. They're called the New Zealand All Blacks, right? One of the best teams out there. I don't follow rugby, but I love sports books. So got a chance to read this. His entire book is how the New Zealand rugby team focuses on coaching and development, a culture of that, to just create best integrity people, create people that are striving to win. One of the big things they do is when they're at the top of their game is when they basically rip it all apart and figure out how to get better. So they could be just winning a championship. Now they want to go back and coach everybody to go, what do we need to do differently so that way we can adapt and move on to the next thing. Again, really focused on coaching. I strive for my teams to think like this, where if we have a culture of development, people that just want to get better, want to do coaching, want to read on their own, have a learning mindset, etc., they're going to get better and your teams are going to get better and you're going to have a great environment. Unreasonable Hospitality. Anybody seen this one before? Will Giarda, he's the owner and entrepreneur of 11th Madison or 11th and Madison or something, whatever the top restaurant in the world is in New York City. 11 Madison Park, that's what the restaurant is. So interesting. I read this book because, again, working at Square, we were doing a lot with the restaurant industry, and a lot of our partners had it, and they were talking about it. Plus, when you watch The Bear, they talk about it on FX. Well, the entire book is a great culture book, and what they focus on is truly creating environments where people become just focus on training, so that way at their restaurants, people don't even have to think about what to do. They're just executing at a high level because they practice, they coach, they train. And it was just fantastic to see how this applies to the real world. They talk about coaching the behavior and not the actual person. So again, another great book talking about coaching. And again, I'm not reading the quotes on here, but you guys can see it. It's really focused on it. This one might be more popular. I'll get more hands, right? Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. A fantastic book. I love it because it talks about, again, having those crucial conversations, those tough conversations. It's about coaching with the heart. It's about being able to rumble, she says, right? Going into that environment where you can be vulnerable, you can be curious, you can have that tough conversation to help people truly coach and develop. Sales Acceleration Formula by Mark Roberge. He's the founder of HubSpot, one of the founders. Anybody ever read this? It's a fantastic playbook for just sales in general, for organizations that want to scale and grow. I really like this one. There's so many things, but he talks about metrics-driven coaching to really understand people's actual numbers and being able to coach to that versus just blanket coaching, individualized, etc. But it probably relates more to the sales world. However, I think there's a lot of great things in here that, again, correlate to non-sales world. I'll give you an example he shares in the book. He talks about his golf trainers. He had a couple trainers. One trainer tells him, hey, bend your knees on the swing. Make sure you have your interlock grip ready. Keep your hips, don't twist your hips. Put your pressure on your back leg. Make sure you follow through your swing and keep your eye on the ball, or keep your eye down. He says all this stuff. And he goes, okay, now let me see you swing. And he says how that trainer trained that way versus another trainer that says, all right, Mark, bend your knees and make sure your grip's set. All right, swing 100 times. Awesome, now you got that. Now let's, put your back leg a little bit forward and keep your head down. And now do 100 times of that. His point there was, coaching is not about, hey, here are all the things you need to work on. It's about taking a few items and focusing on that, getting it real good, and then move on to the next aspect of coaching, right? Now let's look at 1 to 2 things. If you do more than 2 things, typically it becomes overwhelming. So I really love that book and the story. And again, a lot of other coaching stuff. Powerful by Patty McCord. Anybody ever seen this one? She was with Netflix. They talk about creating a culture where you hire top talent and people and trust them to do the job instead of micromanaging them. She talks about people are adults. They want to be communicated effectively. They want to know what the challenges they have to do and then get that examples and help them. It really tied to coaching to me because it's when you're talking to adults and we're talking about coaching, you really want to make sure you can clearly communicate what you need. You really want to make sure you have empathy and respect. It's not about micromanaging. It's not about telling people what to do when they're not doing it right. It's really an art form of how you coach. So I really like that part of the book too. Those are only the 6 I really wanted to show you guys. I did like this quote I wanted to share before I move into some theory. But basically, if you're in the HR profession, you have to be a coach. You have to be really good at communicating, and you have to know when to deal with people with empathy. This is your world. As an HR professional, coaching is a huge part of it. Regardless of who the frontline leader is, you're that business partner and that leader to help them understand how to do this. You can be a catalyst in your organization to really help people get better at coaching. Because I'll be honest with you, the problem is there's a lot of frontline managers out there and they're not good. That's the problem. I've seen it in every sales organization I've worked at. I mean, Trisha just said it. She follows me around, and I know she's worked for people that they're not good. They're, Ed probably could say this back there. There's leaders. They're not good. And it's not their fault. There's a couple reasons, and I'll go through some of my tactical. One is they're not taught leadership development. A lot of companies don't invest in truly developing their leaders. And then there's a lot of people that it's flavor of the month. It's not consistent. They don't execute at a high level. They do it, and then after they've done it for a while, it goes back to whatever the fire is right then and there, and they forget about that consistent process to create coaching and making it a part of the culture. So, as I mentioned, coaching is fundamental for everyone. I mean, it's sports. Nowadays, life coaches. I work strictly with some mental performance coaches that work in different sports, as well as just with different individuals. They work for different organizations. Even my daughter that's in theater, right? She has a voice coach. She's working with their drama coach. Coaching is everywhere. It's not just in the workplace. It's not just in sports. It truly is in all kinds of places. I'm going to talk about 3 different models that I've learned throughout my career that is just more theory-based, but it's what I use throughout the tactical things that I'm going to share with you, but it's just the high-level understanding of, and again, you guys might have already learned this, but I'm going to just share a little bit One is situational development. Ken Blanchard talks about it in 1 Minute Manager. It's the whole concept of skill versus will. We have employees that have, people that want to they have this low competence and high commitment, high will, low skill, right? They're usually new employees. They just started. They don't know much about the products yet or the companies or wherever you work, but they're excited. They're ready to learn. Then there's those individuals that usually in their career or at that job have hit a block and they have low will and low skill, low competence and low commitment, right? Something's challenging for them where they're not, they need help to get to that next level. Then and I'm reading the D's just so you guys know. There's the people that have high competence, high skill, but very low will. For some reason, they're not motivated anymore, typically later throughout that journey in their career. And then there's high competence, high commitment, high skill, high will. Somebody that's like a top performer. You don't have to really worry about them. They're taking care of business. Who still need coaching because you don't want lone wolves out there or people that don't feel like you're developing them, but you just have to do your supporting behaviors differently. And that's what the situational development talks about. Certain people you have to delegate, you have to support. Obviously they match up with low versus will, low skill versus low will, or high will versus high skill. You have to do the various supporting behaviors, directive with somebody that's brand new, showing them, being prescriptive, telling them what it is. Again, this is not just a sales thing. This could be anybody takes on a new job, a new front desk worker at a small business. Well, they're new, they're excited about the job. Well, how are you being directive in what they actually need to accomplish? What's their day-to-day look like? Are you mapping out what they need to accomplish? And at the end of the day, what they have to send to you in order to give you a recap or et cetera? You have to be very directive, but you can't act like that with somebody that has high skill, high will, and is taking care of the job. And now you're actually micromanaging them if you're saying, this is what I want, and I'm being very directive. So this is really important in the situational development model, is understanding where that individual is. Kolb's model, anybody heard of this? This is big in my master's in education. It's basically a model that focuses on experiential aspect, right? Actually doing, and then watching and reflecting, thinking about it, and then going back to doing it. So the feeling comes from actually experiencing it, then it's just a cycle. And the idea is that you're working with people that you create environments for them to get coaching. And if they have those types of environments, sometimes it's not just a one-on-one, and I'll share with you all of that. Now they're actually experiencing it, they're thinking about it, they're learning in that experience, and then guess what? They go and do what you're trying to do. And again, I'll give you guys some examples in my tactical operations side, but the idea is just, again, creating environments where people can experience and have that feeling. And then the last one, it's one of my favorites, it's a simple one. It's tell, show, do, review, right? And the idea there is leading by example. Trisha mentioned that. It's if I'm gonna tell you to do something, well, then I'm gonna go actually do it. I'm gonna show you how it's done, I'm gonna do it, then you're gonna go do it, and then we'll review it. I'll give you guys an example, actually. We're using a recording system, it's called Loom, but just video recording, and we're doing a quick pitch and presentation, elevator pitch. Our entire sales org did it, and I was I wanted my team to also do it. So I record my video, I tell my team, hey, I want you guys to do this. Here's my video. They see it. They see my, me being vulnerable in my conversation, what I would say, and then I go and ask them to do it too. But I had to do it, tell them what it is, do it. Trisha did it, sent it to me today on her work that she did, and then we review it, give feedback, etc. Simple as that. If you're gonna tell somebody to do something, be able to show them what it is. Tell them, show them, then they do it, then you review. Simple way to just focus on coaching. So I wanted to go through these theories, but now I'm gonna actually go through the tactical parts. I think I have 11 or 12 different things I'm gonna share with you all. I'll be honest again, this is my sales world that I'm talking about, but I believe if you look at it and think about it, you'll find places that this could apply in your world when it comes to the concepts that I'm gonna be sharing. And again, after, we'll open it up for some questions if you guys have anything specific. So the first thing is color coding. Yeah, don't get scared. This is my calendar. But I picked 2 different random weeks. I just did it intentionally, but yeah, this is my calendar. I think this is this is one from Square, and this might be actually this week or last, or one of these other weeks. So yeah, I know it looks crazy when you look at it, but I'm big on color coding. But let me give you guys a story. when I worked at Daily Pay several years ago, like the leaders had a leadership session, and we had one of the trainers then basically say like, how much of your time do you spend coaching? And nobody could give a concrete answer. Everybody's like, oh yeah, I spend, X amount of hours or something like that. And everybody, just fluffs it up, etc. Then we opened up the calendars and we said, all right, let's now add up exact time that you've actually spent with your people or with coaching. And it was shocking on, again, how little it was. Like I said, leaders aren't always great and they don't know, but it was shocking at how little people were spending time elsewhere versus with their people when a frontline leader's role is to coach and develop their people. So prior to that, I always was focused on this, but I'm sharing that story because color coding really allows people in your workplace to see, are you spending time in the right places? My yellow is basically my direct reports and like skip levels and things like that. My blues are, I'm working on stuff. I could be listening to calls. I could be giving coaching where I'm doing, feedback in different formats. I have different trainings in here. So like those could be actually considered coaching. So it could add up. And personally, I still know I can do better. I always look at what can I figure out and add in more places that I could create coaching environments. But I'm just sharing with this because I do feel like if people took a step back and assessed their calendar and color code it, you can really go, hey, how much time are you spending with your people and coach? So that was my first pro tip. A great thing in Google also, I know I'm using Google Calendar, it gives you the insight so you could actually have it show you the data that tells you 80% of your time was doing this, 32% did, whatever it is, right? It adds up to 100. So that example didn't even make sense. But I'm big on this. Next one, one-on-ones. I mean, obviously everybody here has one-on-ones, but there's a concept of one-on-ones is like, is it actually effective? And I think there are certain things I'm gonna go through right here that I feel like make it effective. And if you make it effective, then you could be at Chuck E. Cheese having your one-on-one with your direct report and they don't care because they know I'm spending my time with them and I'm valuable and they don't look at it as disrespect. So I'm sharing that because I'm also big on all my work-life integration. My buzzer doesn't work there. See the grays? That's when I'm not available. I got to go to Zoe's cheer camp. I got to go to Milani's showcase. I got to take her school appointment. I got to go to Zoe basketball, field hockey. So my work-life integration is important. So even then when I'm doing my one-on-ones, they know like, hey, if I have to be with my kids, it's perfectly fine. But that's because I make sure our time is valuable. They know that it's a valuable session for them. And if you have valuable sessions, people aren't gonna say, well, I don't wanna have this one-on-one or I'm dreading this time. I'll give you guys a story. I'm not gonna name names here and stuff, but when I was at Living Social, again, I went back from leadership, so I kind of understand a lot of this stuff. I had a manager. We would go into a room, and we were in New York City. We would go into a room to have our one-on-ones, and literally all the sales reps, the inside joke was, how fast can your one-on-one be? And we would go in there, and it was, hey, how's everything going? Good, good. Like, yeah, so your number's looking good. What do you think? On point, I have my pipeline, cool. And, what do you need help with? I'm like, I think I'm good right now. Everything's great. Awesome. Yep, well, great. Boom, come out, high five. Less than 3 minutes, like high five and to see who had the fastest one-on-one with this leader because we did not have valuable time. I know it's horrible, right? That's why I don't want to name names. They probably will see this one day and see it, but whatever. Like, hopefully they're better now. But valuable time is important. Does that person want to spend that time with you? Is important. And that really comes down to a lot of things. One is I create reoccurring one-on-ones. They have to be on the calendar. I don't cancel the day of, ever. I think that's wrong to cancel a one-on-one on a day of. I create it, it's already on the calendar. I might move it around because they know I'll move it maybe for a customer call or a client call or a huge fire that I have to. But we make sure this time is set for us every week at least. And then if I have to move it, it would be the day before, but I will not move it the morning of or the day of because guess what? I don't want them to think at any time that they're not valuable to that time. Trisha, you had our one-on-one today. That was on the calendar since last week. Did not get touched because I'm not moving it. It's our time together. So reoccurring is important. Having your agenda is really important. We like to use Google Docs to actually have a shared collaborative doc, be able to put our topics, each of our topics and what we're gonna talk about. And then we go into the one-on-one knowing what the discussion is. We'll still have our, hey, how's everything going with the weekend, the family, we were discussing obviously tonight, things like that. But then when we get to the work topics, we have all that and we have an agenda. Again, these are not things that you probably aren't doing. You're probably doing these, but there's a lot of people that don't, or they're not consistent with it, or they don't respect that time to really make people feel, hey, this one-on-one is where I'm gonna get valuable coaching and growth there. I always recommend minimum 45-minute one-on-ones. I think 30 minutes is too short. If you are talking about them in the personal level, and then you are talking about their topics, and you are talking about your topics, and you are focused on coaching, I don't see how it ever could be fit in 30 minutes. We typically have 45-minute one-on-ones, and if anything, they're typically over at that point longer and could go over, and we're fine. We have a 15-minute buffer already built in because we blocked it out only for 45 minutes. Or for certain people and what work we have or what our topics look like, I'll just make them an hour. Ours was 1 hour long today because we already knew our stuff. We have a lot of stuff to cover. But I won't make one-on-ones less than 45 minutes because then you're not valuing that time and truly creating that relationship that you can. And then it's about being curious, right? It's about curious about their family, about their personal lives, what they're doing, just what do they want to do, right? Like what are their goals, aspirations? These conversations happen over and over throughout every week and we're growing together, but that only comes if the leader and the individuals are truly curious. It comes to that even when you're trying to solve what is it, the issues that you want to help them with when it comes to coaching. Hey, I see you're struggling here and we need to fix this. Tell me what's holding you back from that. What do you think is happening that's different from you and your peer when it comes to those, that action item? And again, I'm just trying to be general instead of giving you guys sales specific stuff, but it's being curious and doing discovery to understand what the root cause is. So then we could truly go, we could fix this and we could help that with some actual coaching. Next thing I'm big on is competencies. And this is kind of ties to what I just said of one-on-ones. When you can get to the root cause and what those competencies are, it can help you figure out how to actually coach them. So competencies should be defined in an organization. They should be assessed. They should be like basically something, and it doesn't have to be all organizations using the same ones. For that specific role, what are those competencies that actually will make this person successful in that role, right? Is it they have to be able to be responsive? They have to be able to be customer facing, and professional. Do they need to be, and I'm just, again, making up stuff outside of my normal sales ones, like prospecting and territory research and things like that. But any role can use specific competencies. If you can define them and then tell with someone in their one-on-ones or work with them and go, let's assess where you are with these. Now you can then go, this is how we're going to improve those things. Or you could even then use the situational development and go, hey, you're a D1 here, but a D4 here. Let's work on this D1 trait and see how we can improve you. And it'll go from, and again, I know you guys are taking a picture of this. I don't think any of these are necessarily apply, but it's more the concept. But then you can create actual coaching by taking those competencies, understanding what the root cause is, and then creating an actual coaching plan to help that individual get better. That's individualized coaching. What people do typically, blanket coaching. Hey, you know what? Everybody needs to work on this, and that's it. We're gonna all get better by reading this book, and that's it. It was nothing about that individual, nothing about that curiosity you had to understand what the issue is. It was nothing about the actual competency you're trying to improve and why they have that root cause, and then what are we gonna do to improve that? So that way you're actually improving that employee, and then it goes back to that culture. This employee becomes a master in their role. They want to be there. They want to engage with you more. They want to refer their friends to come work there. But if we're not focused on that individual, we can't do true coaching behaviors. It becomes blanket coaching. So a couple examples I'll share, and again, these are very specific to the sales world, but I'll just use an easy one. It could be just organizational skills. Like you have someone that isn't doing really well with organizational skills. Guess what? Typically, the root cause, they don't manage their calendar well, or they don't prioritize well. Anybody read 7 Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey? He talks about urgent versus important. How many people actually know how to react to each thing that comes that's urgent and important, that's urgent, not important, important, not urgent, not urgent, not important? A lot of people know that concept. Nobody actually puts it into action. Well, that person that needs organizational help probably is either lost because their calendar is a mess. So we pull up the calendar. Let's review what your calendar looks like. Holy crap, there's a lot of white space here. You're like, what are you doing all day? I trust you're working, but do you know where you're being most effective? Are you able to be productive? Or maybe it is they're just catching fires, they have emails, they're responding at the wrong times, it's just not organized because they don't know how to go, hey, I had something that was important, but it's not urgent, and I blocked out the time to go handle that. or I have something that's important and urgent, and I need to like quickly schedule a meeting with everybody because it is a fire we need to take up. Most people treat everything like a fire. And it's just sitting back with them and going, let's figure out the root cause. And now let's create a coaching plan. What I'd like for you to do for the next 21 days, every day prior to your next day, block out your calendar every hour, including your breaks, your lunch, your recap emails you're gonna do, your admin time. You do that, send me a recap or send me your plan for the day. This is, again, they're D1 at this thing, right? They're low skill because they, but they're high will, they want help. Hey, they're D1, I'm going to now put this plan, you put the calendar, send me that plan so I can review, make sure your day looks exciting. It's really just to hold them accountable. Guess what, they do it for 21 days. It takes 21 days to create a habit, right? So we create a coaching plan to say, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do it for 21 days. At the end of 21 days, we're gonna assess how your organization has been based on that and see what's the next skill we're gonna work on to continuously improve you. That's actually coaching that people aren't doing. Instead, it's, hey, you're not doing well, you need to get better. Maybe there's a recommendation, I don't know, depending on the person. If not, a couple of months down the line, they're talking about, we need to replace this person. And now you had somebody you brought in, you spent on time, onboarding, recruiting. We know how it is with turnover, and now you're gonna go through that same cycle because people aren't coaching. And I don't even think it's you all in the room. I'm saying whoever that frontline leader is that should be taking this responsibility, you as a professionals can help them with these types of things. All right, those are some things. I'm gonna keep giving you guys more stuff. I mentioned creating environments. I also feel what people do is feel like one-on-ones is all coaching and that's it. I had a one-on-one with them that week, we're gonna talk about everything and that's it for coaching. I think that's wrong. I believe you have to actually create true coaching sessions. So one of the other things is in that one-on-one, we can talk about, hey, we want to get better at, let's say, that organization hack. I'm not telling them all that stuff there, or that's a bad example because that's a really easy fix, but let's just use something. I can't think of like something outside of sales right now, so I'll use a sales one. But let's just say I'm working with them on the prospecting thing, and it's like, hey, you need to prospect better. You need to make your calls to your businesses, the enterprise companies you're calling. So what we're going to do is on Thursday, we'll schedule a 30-minute coaching session. During that time, we'll actually take what we just understood was an issue. We just made a coaching plan on how we're gonna get better, and we're gonna actually spend 30 minutes where you'll go do your prospecting, and I'm actually gonna listen while you're doing it, and then I'm gonna give you feedback right after and make sure you're doing better. That's side-by-side coaching that's missing, and that's separate than the one-on-ones. One-on-one is a place to discover what those root causes are and have those conversations. Then you create that coaching plan and a coaching session to supplement that, and now you're creating a culture of coaching. People are actually coaching throughout the day. I gave you guys some examples. I actually have a couple people that this one is actually current, I think, and this one is like, no, this is a current one, this is an old one, but this is an individual that wanted some specific coaching from me on becoming a better leader. So we created, and so it's not specific like, hey, you have this issue. It was more, you want to become a better leader. I'm going to teach you some stuff that'll help you be a better leader. So then it's creating with dates, what the content is, and tracking that we're doing. That's coaching outside of just one-on-one time, outside of us just, our personal time. And so it's really focused on, hey, these are specific conversations and topics we're having. This is just an example, but if somebody had this coaching plan, I would do the same thing and go, here are the calendar dates that we're gonna actually do this coaching stuff. Maybe we're gonna do call reviews. Maybe it's a customer service person and they're talking to people. I remember at University of Phoenix, we would use Y Connects and listen back in the day. Now there's a lot of call recordings, but they're maybe talking to clients or customers and you wanna give them feedback. Well, then we're gonna have the session outside of our one-on-one that we'll actually review those together so we can give feedback, talk about it, and keep getting better. So coaching sessions is really important in helping people get better. On top of that, another environment is just learning sessions. And I like to call it learning sessions because I think too many people think just training that enablement's doing is all the coaching and learning. They just, maybe you have a trainer at your company and like Sam LaPointe probably knows this, like, hey, you're responsible for coaching my people. She probably gets that all the time from a frontline leader versus a frontline leader actually coaching it and coming up with more sessions or working in coordination with your trainer on things that will help that team or that person. So this is just some examples. Again, these were actual trainings that we brought into Square to help people with specific content and knowledge. So we actually bring in people We actually just did this one today. Trisha was in that call today. We brought in several IT folks to come and do some AI training for us and prompting 101 and just understanding how in our world we can use some of the technology we already have access to. But the point there was, here's additional coaching and development for the team that I'm bringing some external people to come in and actually give to our team. So we're creating more and more space that it's on top of those one-on-one and coaching sessions that's just learning, right? Creating a culture of learning and development. So I think there's a lot of places when it comes to learning sessions that you probably can do. Honestly, you all are here learning right now, so that's awesome. But like, that's the kind of concept you want to take back to your company and your organization and go, how can we create everybody thinking about more learning sessions so we can actually get better and better at everything we do? Anybody big on documentation? So one of my favorite things actually that I do, it's funny because again, I have a lot of leaders that don't see the value in it. A lot of people think like it's a penalized thing, right? It's punishment if you're just documenting and sending recaps and stuff. It typically does happen when like, oh, we're gonna performance manage. So guess what? You need to send a recap and you need to say all these things. So that way you can make sure when the time's right, you're not gonna get sued because you did everything and you told them it could lead up to termination, right? Well, I actually believe in one-on-one recaps, coaching recaps, everything recap, and I document it and I send it every time after a session, whatever session it is. Team meeting session, one-on-one session, a coaching session, the training session today that I did with the prompting. I'm gonna send a recap. Here's a video of the call. Here's some of the key points we learned. Here's et cetera, and it'll say recap. I'm showing you guys this is from Square, but like I'm just literally showing you guys my entire inbox, sent box of every recap I'm sending there because I do it for every call. It doesn't matter, every one-on-one. Trisha, did you get a recap today? Right after our meeting. I have the agenda there. I have my notes right there. Copy, paste, send it in there. Trisha, this was an awesome conversation. Loved all the things we're doing. Here's the things that I know you're gonna work on. Here's the things that I'm gonna work on your app, and we're gonna accomplish these things. Recap sent. Great one-on-one. She has that. I can reference it back when I need to. Guess what? It also helps you build up when you actually are looking at progression of a person. People only look at it for the negative reasons. Why not the positive reasons? Let me look at all my recaps. A month ago, we were talking about getting better at your calendar. Well, now we're talking about improving your skill sets here. Next month, we're talking about this, and it's all recapped and all the coaching sessions there. This person actually has been growing with the organization. And guess what? When we do their reviews, we actually have all the recaps set. We could copy paste them if we want, or we could just use the summaries of that and be like, this person has actually developed these skill sets and actually deserves this rating in their stuff. So that's it ties right into quarterly reviews. I'm a big believer that you have to do reviews frequently, not wait till annual reviews. I don't know why companies just do once a year reviews and feel like that's the time we're gonna talk about all this stuff and where you stand. It should be something that you're constantly talking about. So taking a lot of those recaps, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, all the things we're doing, and putting it into a quarterly review, and this is where you've stood this quarter, and then guess what? When you add up your quarterly reviews throughout the year, makes it a much easier conversation and much cleaner for that individual to go, wow, like I see why I got this rating. I see why I got this raise because of the things that I've done or things I haven't done. But everything's recapped, everything's in a quarterly review. Again, anybody actually do quarterly reviews right now? I feel like some companies do. When we were, I think it was at Paychex that moved to like 4x4 or something like that, and that was great. But again, companies like I'm at right now, it's annual. Well, what I do is take the opportunity on my own to just create my own quarterly structure. I know what the annual review is. I could just do the same thing quarterly. It's something we should push for people to do because the more frequent feedback and conversations, the formal conversations like that, the better it is for their growth and development and them knowing where they stand throughout the year. Anybody like StrengthsFinder? As you can see, I have a bunch of their books, just so you know. There's more than that. I don't work for Gallup or anything, but Marcus Buckingham's book, First Break All the Rules, actually was the gateway into it. Then he has a book called Now Go Discover Your Strengths, and then there's like more and more, and then I got all these other ones, and there's strengths-based selling and Stand Out and Stand 2.0 and things like that. But StrengthsFinder is one of my favorite things. As you guys can see, one of the things I do, and some of these people might be in this room that might be on here, but I basically love to create a strengths bank and build my teams based on their strengths and understand how to work with those individuals. And this is just one org. I've had this for every org. So this is actually the Paychex one. Actually, only one of them is actually on there right now. I think you can see. But my thing is I create these so that way I can then work with that person based on what their strengths are. When you start coaching someone and you know what they respond to, it's much easier. So when someone like, I'll use Mark here, futuristic and strategic, if you pull up StrengthsFinder, that person wants to see the big picture and the long-term vision. So when we're talking about coaching and we're like, hey, listen, I need you to work on your, X behavior so you can become better. And when you do that, guess what? At the end of the year, these are what that'll translate to. And then you could finish the year at President's Club and be one of the top performers, right? Like, because I know he needs it to link to the futuristic aspect of it, or else he's not going to be bought in value. Or somebody's strength might be, achiever, like David right there. Well, I need David to go and see, we're going to work on your X behavior. This is where you actually stand as far as when it comes to performance amongst your peers. And you told me you want to be one of the top players here. So we need to make sure you see this is your percentage. And at the end of this coaching plan, can we bring it up to this percentage? Because he's an achiever at heart and he needs to make sure he's hitting that at least 100% number. But StrengthsFinder is a big thing. So again, one of my pro tips is if you're not using something like this, you should. It allows you to customize and cater to the individual versus, again, a lot of blanket approach. Game film sessions. I'm big on this. I did a whole speaking thing at in Atlanta for a company, and I talked about this, but also Gong, which is the tool we use. I did a whole campaign for them, and they basically put me on video to talk about how I use Gong. Basically, the concept here is that we would actually listen to each other's calls in a group setting and provide feedback, be vulnerable, get better. It's another book that I'm a huge fan of, Who's Got Your Back by Keith Ferrazzi. 4 pillars of a team: vulnerability, generosity, candor, and accountability. Well, these game film sessions makes it where somebody's gonna have to be vulnerable and be ready to see their call out with everyone. And again, I know this is very sales focused. There are ways that this potentially could be something that you do in your organization if there's recordings or at least some work you could do, and it's the same concept, is being vulnerable, being generous with feedback. So we all as a group, and obviously you see me, but there's all of us in the room talking, we're being generous with feedback, we're being constructive, but at the same time, we're being candid. So if there is something to get better at, we're doing that. And then what happens is, after all that feedback and conversation, they know what they need to get better, and it holds them accountable. So next week, when we're looking at more calls or something like this, they've actually had improvement. They've actually executed on. The week over week aspect of call recordings and watching this and creating just this sports type of game film, right? All sports teams are doing this where they're watching their film and seeing how they could get better. We've applied that into our world, and we do this every week because it's the fastest way to improve somebody when you put a team together and you assess that and give coaching right there directly. Because somebody else that might not even been on the call takes all that coaching and is going to be, I'm going to improve myself on that too. But my CEO actually loves this and wants to actually apply this to his engineering team and other team. Now, again, I don't know how. Maybe it's like they created a demo. They're going to watch the demo together. They're going to talk about that demo and see how they could get better. What does the work actually look like, output? And then they go back and now next week work on something else. Maybe that. But it's more of that concept. If there's a way you could do team feedback sessions, you could truly improve because everybody will be vulnerable, generous, candid, and accountable. Coaching pods. So Simon Sinek's book, Leaders Eat Last. Again, I'm referencing all these books intentionally just to show you guys all the books. But Simon Sinek, again, great, right? He has Start With Why and all these other books. But in Leaders Eat Last, he talks about coaching pods. And I didn't realize this until I was just reading that book and I was like, wow, Paychex actually did a really good job with coaching pods. So these 7 individuals, we were all, I think in 2017, we were all promoted from sales reps to leaders at Paychex. And when Paychex actually promotes you to a leader role, they fly everybody to Rochester, all the new leaders for that year, and they actually do leadership development. I actually thought they did a fantastic job with leadership development. They bring you back, then about 6 weeks later, they bring you back again as a group. So the 7 of us in this class of maybe about 20 got together after we met there, and we all are from different places. Alicia's in Texas. Erica was in Florida at the time, now lives in Long Island. Brian's in Florida, Chris is in Florida, Ricky's in Connecticut, Andy was in Texas. We all just connected during this leadership conference thing and development, and we go, hey, we should actually stay connected and set up a monthly peer group so we can talk about our journey as a new leader at Paychex. And we did that. We did that for like a year. And we created strong relationships, but we also like learned from each other, talked about issues we had. Sometimes having that type of connection and going to another leader in a different place, and it doesn't have to just be in an internal company, it could be external networking, and you have a bunch of leaders that get together like a coaching pod, and now you can actually talk about coaching, right? Or how to get better, or what are you doing with your people? Not only did we do that and we stayed connected, Erica, I recruited at Daily Pay. She's now the VP of sales. I mean, she's Ed's boss over there. Alicia was at Daily Pay. Then she went to Square and worked alongside myself and Trisha there. Ricky and I stay in touch all the time. He actually interviewed for several roles when I was at the Afterpay side for me, but like we didn't go that way. Andy and I stay connected at conferences because he works in the same space now, so I always see them. Chris, I've sent referrals to of people I know in Florida that were looking for sales jobs, and Brian's the only one I haven't stayed connected with. And I think it's because he's not a leader anymore. He went back to an individual contributor. But the point is that these coaching pods really create a network and can help people just be better coaches, just learning from peers. And maybe you'll have somebody that's telling you like really good things that they're doing, and you can share, pay it forward to each other. All right, this is the last one, and this is more of a bonus that I just want to share. We're talking about coaching people, and it's really important, but I truly believe it starts before they even start the job. A lot of times, the reason we're having issues with people where it's like we're having coaching, performance management, we have to help like people like get better and they're not the right hire or something, is because we don't do really a good job with hiring and onboarding. And listen, I know HR is very involved in this, and I'm a big fan of this. I truly feel like there's specific things people need to do in the front end to set themselves up with great teams. And then when you do all that coaching, it's just gonna propel and amplify. Or else you're just gonna have a lot of performance management. I think you guys already know this. You're just gonna go through a cycle and then like deal with retention, and now you have to hire and you're going through the same cycle. My bonus stuff here is that, one, I do believe in behavioral-based interviewing with competencies. Hey, let's hear what examples. Again, this is not anything new to you all. I know in the HR professional, like behavioral-based interviewing is big. STAR method, right? Situation, task, action, result. That whole concept, I truly believe in it. Again, I think there's a lot of leaders that don't do that. I think they hear it, they say, yeah, I'm gonna do that, and then they go into interviews and they do whatever they normally do instead of actually executing on behavioral-based interviewing and actually looking at competencies instead of whatever the buzzwords that candidate is saying. I believe in multiple touch points. One of the things I see shocking is when someone tells me they just hired someone and I go, how many times did you interview them? Like, oh, I just one time. Like the recruiter screened them, I interviewed them, and I sent it to my colleague to do a second interview. The interview's done and they send an offer letter and that's it. I was like, holy crap, how do you know even that person's like somebody you want to be long-term with, right? You don't get married after the first date, like you multiple dates in order to get there. And I believe in multiple touch points. Hey, recruiter's gonna screen. I reached out to them initially to just make sure it's somebody that I'm interested in working with. I set up a time to get to know them. I do an interview. They're gonna go meet with somebody else. Well, after that meeting, I'm gonna reach out and set up a time to talk to them to understand like how that conversation went. If they're gonna do a panel interview, I make sure I'm on that panel so I can see it. I wanna be able to see this person multiple times. I wanna make sure that everything that I learned is consistent in every aspect of it, that it's not just they gave me the buzzwords and then somebody else are giving whatever buzzwords that person cares about. And I want to make sure that person and us are going to like actually get married if they're going to start at that job. So it's 5 to 7 touch points before I hire somebody. Again, Trisha knows this. Sam probably knows this. Ed probably knows this, right? Like these are things that it's something that I will make sure happens in order to work on one of my teams. Potential versus performance. Too many people look at a resume and just think about strictly the performance and whatever they've done, their experience only. Experience is great. I think that's a fantastic thing. They learn from it. But a lot of times you have to look at the potential and that they can do it. I forget this one. I can't remember which book really highlights that, but there is one. It might have been the sales acceleration one, but it's all about you can't just rely on people's experience. You have to see the potential or what the potential they can do with your organization. And when you do that, you will have better talent because there are people that have that will that you're looking for versus, hey, I have X amount of experience, but they really aren't like as excited to like start somewhere new and do that stuff. So I'm just big on don't like miss out on potential. And then onboarding starts at offer letter. I presented an offer letter last week to 2 individuals starting on my team. Well, they already have one-on-ones with me this week. So even before they start on June 2nd, they have time with me on my calendar. They actually have time with the rest of the team next week. I sent out swag to their houses already, so they have a welcome kit. I strongly believe if you don't make it the great experience that it is, how do you know that June 2nd, they're gonna even show up? You might have not even been their first choice in hiring, right? Like they could have been interviewing elsewhere. But onboarding starts at the offer letter. I do the multiple touch points to get to there. Then I'm talking to them a whole bunch of times before they even start. And it's really important that, we really create a great onboarding experience. So, and again, onboarding isn't, they start on day one and hopefully they are treated like awesome, technology works, they're ready to go, you have a desk set up or whatever. But even prior to that, we should be taking care of it. A lot of recruiting teams do things like that nowadays. So I do see that, but I think frontline leaders miss out the opportunity. That's your person. Why aren't you doing all these things with your person before they start? And then the last thing I show here real quick is the onboarding matrix. So my concept here is if you truly have good onboarding and you find good people, they're gonna ramp fast in whatever job they're doing. They're gonna contribute early. They're gonna be great for the team, and they're gonna be a retained employee, which is a lot of times the HR professionals want, right? Retention, high retention with their employees. If you have poor onboarding, which I see this a lot of times mainly because of the leaders, but you have a great candidate, you're gonna have mediocre performance, inconsistency, longer ramp, and honestly, this is a big one, you're gonna have a risk of turnover. Like if I'm a top performer and I go somewhere and the onboarding sucks, I'm like, dang, did I make a bad decision? And I know a lot of people that reach out to me and goes, hey, I think I made a bad decision. I'm interested if you're looking for opportunities, because they stay there 90 days and they realize that's not for them. It's usually because the onboarding was horrible. I don't know, you guys might do more surveys than me or look at it, but I bet you it's more onboarding than anything. Either that, misrepresentation of what the job was, right? One of those two things. If you have good onboarding but a poor candidate, you'll still get mediocre performance. You'll get a longer ramp, and you're gonna be spending a lot of time on coaching because they weren't a great candidate, but you have a great onboarding, so they're gonna stick around. I remember an employee on our team that their performance was bad, but they don't wanna leave because they love the culture we have. They wanna be there, but they're not cutting it. And that happens when you hire a bad candidate, but you have great onboarding. But then that means you have to spend more time now on performance managing that person out, coaching them up, whatever it is. And then if poor onboarding, poor candidate, that's where you have low in performance, negative impact to the remainder of the team, and also, again, time with performance management, which it's the worst part of the job when it comes to it, when I have to deal with it, is I have to go through a PIP or whatever, and then performance improvement plan, and then I have to fire somebody. I don't like doing that stuff. I'd rather have it that we exit on good terms and I can help them find what they need. But HR professionals, I know you guys deal with it, but it's the worst. And I'd rather have us prevent that as much as we can. I think that's all my stuff. And on all that, the big thing is consistency is key. So if people see these operational things that you can go do, what'll happen is someone will go and go, hey, I'm gonna do that. And it's like, you do it one time or a month, and then flavor of the month, it's done. They're not staying consistent. Guess what? They'll do it the next year when, I see this a lot, HR is gonna come and do a team meeting to all our sales leaders, and they're gonna tell everybody, we need to do this, 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 this. Everybody's pumped, goes and does it for a month, forgets about it. The rest of the time, they come back next year, we're doing the same annual meeting, diversity meeting, coaching meeting, performance management updates, whatever it is. It just happens flavor of the month when that comes in. So hopefully, it looks like I did talk for that long, so I apologize. Yeah, a couple of QR codes here. If you didn't get the first QR code, it was just me on my LinkedIn if you want to connect with me. That's subscription to my newsletter. Again, every 2 weeks, just a video newsletter through Canva that talks about a lot of times these books, 3 to 5 minute micro learnings. And then the survey for this content. But I will open it up if we have time. If anybody actually has any questions on this stuff, I don't mind answering it as long as Trisha and team doesn't mind. If not, we could be done. I don't care. Oh, well, anybody but Ed.
So I think that sometimes as HR professionals, it's hard to bridge the gap with leadership and create those one-on-ones with senior management. How would you go ahead and navigate that, or what is a suggestion that you would make to go ahead and encourage that communication between them?
Yeah, that's the hard part, right? It's usually best if you have top down and you need senior leaders on there. Hence, like when I partner with my HRBPs and then my teams have to partner with it, they all believe in it because I'm believing in it. So to break into that senior leader, I mean, hopefully what you could do is show some of those things that we're talking about and be like, hey, this is how it'll improve your team, right? What's in it for them with him? So what's in it for them? Like, you could actually improve your team or your culture or something specific based on some of these things you could share. I think all these books, they all talk about reading it. Reference some of these books, because if they read it, then they'll know, like, yeah. Because that's another funny thing to me is, like, all leaders and stuff, they read all these books. They're like, I ask leaders in the room, like, have you guys read this? Like, yeah. How come you don't do any of that? That's what I don't understand, is like they all read it. So I think referencing some of them so it relates to their world. I mean, obviously you want to get that one-on-one personal time. Comes back to the relationship. Build that relationship. My HRBPs, they do every team builder with me. They interact with us. They go out with us. So I make them a part of the team, like an extension of that team. So it's how can you become an extension of that team? And it's going to be hard because, you know, they're not the ones inviting you right now, and you got to somehow get in there. So I think that comes back to basic relationship, like set up the time, get to know them, talk about them. Salespeople want to talk about themselves. Talk about them, guess what? Or not just salespeople, but any alpha male or alpha leader, etc. Talk to them about them. I guarantee you'll build that relationship. And then I got to show them the value. Ed?
Yeah, I'm curious. We talked about it in previous talks, but I'm curious. The integration of AI, has that changed your kind of leadership style from just being, I guess, relying upon just the statistics and the qualification, the quantification, I should say, of data within AI? So has it changed your style?
Yeah, I think there's still more opportunity. You guys saw the prompting session I did today was intentionally so I could also get better. It holds me accountable when I tell all my team that they need to learn this stuff. I'm already using Gemini Notes, so recaps are much even easier, especially team meetings and stuff, so I don't have to like write all of them. My one-on-ones are typically planned, but using Gemini Notes, so it literally gives me a script. I also use AI, like you were with me, we were at the conference last week. You don't know this, but like I have an AI pin, and it's basically helping me strategize all my stuff. Now, that could be something that I could use for coaching and stuff like that with if all our teams are using that kind of stuff, and we could have like a template created that says like in-person events or some sort of offsites we're doing. These are all the, you know, action items that come out of it, what happened as a summary, etc. But I'm just starting to play with that so I could get better myself, and then I could kind of roll it out to see how I could coach others. But my professional coaching for myself is, hey, I'm using an AI pin now to get better. So that's one, and then I'm using Notes. I do need to get more in depth into some of the stuff you said with data, quantification. We just learned today how to really create our own gem, they call it, which is like your agent, and then use all your stuff. Like if I have all these things that I care about, I could spit it in there, and then it will let me like, anything I ask will be based on how I look at it, and I'm going to start creating some sort of agent like that. But that's a new world for all of us, I feel like, and I think it is untapped. Great question. All right. I don't want to keep everybody going. I know we got raffles and more networking to do, etc. But thank you guys so much for listening. Again, hopefully you guys connect with me, and I hope that you were able to take something away from here and that it was valuable time for you all too.